What's going on? I'm Sam. Today I'm going to be finishing the kitchen area in my short bus camper Skoolie build. What are you doing? So I started off by taking the doors off all the cabinets and putting a coat of primer on them. This really wasn't too bad, and it can be kind of enjoyable, especially since I really don't have that many cabinets. So I primed the back side and then painted that before turning them over, priming the front side, and then putting a couple coats of cabinet paint on the front side as well. After everything dried, it was just a matter of putting all the doors and drawers back in, which was pretty easy, and it started looking really good with all this being painted. I had already cut the countertop in another video, but I hadn't permanently installed it yet, so I put some silicone caulk down, and I also installed some of the cabinet corners in some of the corners so that I could put a couple screws in to hold it down as well. In the upper cabinet boxes I made, I cut out some wood so I could put these hinges in, and I started gluing together all the pieces for the door to that cabinet. I put some weight on it and left it overnight for that construction adhesive to set up. Sadly, these hinges aren't going to work out. They seemed perfect, but the geometry isn't quite where I need it. I wanted the face of the door to stick up taller than this part to hide the LEDs back there, but with the geometry, it more or less has to be flush for this hinge to open correctly. I really wanted to use these hinges because just by themselves they'll hold the door open and they'll hold it shut, but I bought some other hinges to use. I'll have to have something to latch them shut and something to hold them open, but I'll be able to make it work. So I really like this sink, except these mounting tabs are absolutely horrible. I understand the side ones, why they're here, but these are so close to the edge, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, that's fine, but there's no reason. This is actually, looks like someone just messed up where they were welding it, because this guy even has more room, and really they could even be as far down as here. This is probably actually just a quality control thing, but it makes installing the sink so bad because there's almost no room to clamp, and I had to cut this hole out super tight. This just seems like a really bad design. I've installed a few sinks before. This is definitely my least favorite sink of all of them. I don't know what this thing is. I think it's to keep this from slipping out. It also could be to fold over the screw to keep that from backing out. There's no documentation, and these are really hard to rotate. But I think, well, see, even that doesn't make sense. I don't know. I really don't like this design. Or at least I'd like some documentation on how they're supposed to go on. Putting the sink in was super easy. I just ran a bead of silicone and set that sink in there. But putting the actual clamps in was a huge pain. So these kind of make sense. When you screw this in, it pushes the bracket against the sink and you're able to tighten it down. But back here at the back, this makes no sense at all, because when you tighten this, it just swings like a pivot. I ended up using these to kind of try and keep them from swinging, and I got it kind of tight, but I don't know, not as tight as I'd want it to be. And like, there's no other way to really put this in unless I'm just missing something. I don't know. I'm not really a fan of how this sink mounts. But that being said, I really do like how it looks, and it was pretty cheap. Especially considering it came with this guy down here, this rollout mat here, and then the insert cutting board here, which is actually pretty thick and solid. So before posting this video, I had looked again on Amazon and all over to make sure I wasn't missing any instructions. And then I realized the cutout template that came with the box actually does have instructions on it. For the most part, I installed the mounting brackets right, And the only thing that's wrong about this is they still wouldn't work correctly for the back of the sink, how I was saying there's no place for them to brace themselves. The only thing I can think of is they were supposed to be close to the back of the sink, and the counter was supposed to be cut out a little differently, and a whole bunch got made this way, and maybe that's why they're so cheap on Amazon. I don't know. It doesn't really affect anything because the back of the sink is still pretty firmly mounted from the side clips and everything else. So I'm not worried about it. It was just a little bit annoying. I put some pieces of wood around the exhaust hood to trim that in a little better. And then I put a coat of primer on the upper cabinet door for the kitchen. And of course, when that was dry, I painted it too, as well as painting all this trim around the hood. I installed this kit underneath the sink so I could make use of the fake drawer that came with it. These things are awesome, and it's easy enough as screwing in the hinges and then screwing in the door. I actually really like the packaging of this faucet. And this was a really cheap faucet too. Next was just installing the faucet, and this was super easy like a normal faucet install. Okay, the faucet's in. It feels pretty good. The faucet feels actually pretty good, but the sprayer and the line feel a little cheap. But I mean, I think I paid $40 for this. Sweet. Since I was painting everything and not going for a wood look, an unfinished board, I wasn't too worried about these gaps. I planned on doing a quarter round or shoe molding type molding everywhere to cover these gaps, but they're actually small enough I might be able to get away with using caulk, and I'll have a much cleaner transition. And of course, trying to get this on camera and working around that tripod, I laid a terrible bead with this giant drip. When I modified this cabinet to fit the RV stove, I kept all the cutoffs, and I was actually able to use these to make it fit the RV stove better. Next, I installed some basic cabinet latches just to hold this top cabinet closed while I'm driving down the road. And this is where things got really exciting because it was the hood install and the range install. And after that, pretty much all the kitchen equipment is in. I am adding this countertop end piece just to make the counter flow into the wall a little bit smoother. The lights are super bright, but the way they directly hit the roof, it's a little too bright when you're looking at the reflection. So I probably have to add a 45-degree angle like this so that the lights aren't quite as harsh when you're looking at the cabinets. So this is awesome. I got the kitchen done other than plumbing and electric, which I'm going to do the electric and the plumbing for the whole bus at the same time. This ended up working pretty good. The struts were not delivered. There was a problem, so I had to reorder them. But it latches pretty well, and then it opens. And right now I'm just keeping some stuff in it. I'll probably block off that fiberglass just to keep that a little nicer. The hood needs wired up, but it's in. I just did some basic trim work around it, but I like how it looks. I didn't want to do anything too fancy. The stove needs the propane run still and the electric, but again, that will be done later. I really am loving this sink. It's huge, and like I can wash dishes in it, not worrying about anything. Oh, hi Griffin. What are you doing? Did you just wake up? Come on. What do you think? Huh? So all the doors are in. I still need to adjust that a little bit because it's not super even. I did the hidden drawer here for sponges, just so I could make use of every last inch of space. This one opens, but I already started playing with some baby latches here, where you have to use the magnet to open it. And I tried that with this oops. And I was trying that with this shelf too. This is really hard to do one-handed. but I do plan on putting some pull straps on here. Originally, I wasn't going to put hardware on these because it would stick out. I'm probably going to put some leather pull straps on first, see how I like them, and then I might still put handles on these later. And then there's this drawer here for all the pots and pans. So I think this is looking great in the kitchen. Tomorrow I got to tackle the bathroom, but it feels good having like one area more or less completed. Again, I'm not counting the utilities because I'm going to do those all at once. So this is amazing. Looking at this corner, I just want to take it out and use it, even though this stuff isn't necessarily functional right now. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. What are you doing? Griffin, you want to go try this out? I can cook you chicken on the stove. You're so good. What are you doing? You're a good boy. You're a good boy. Sit. Sit. You want to go home? You want to eat dinner? You want to see Toby? Where's Dave? Dog park? Home Depot? Go to work? Oh, good boy.